Montessori Grandma. Episode 59, The Coming of Prokaryotes.
Branching diagrams in life science. The Coming of Prokaryotes. Written and presented by Vijayachandran. The tree of life is the next topic in the elementary program. In the elementary class, only two kingdoms are looked at in the tree of life. They are the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. Before we do the tree of life, we need to have an idea of how branching is done. Biological classification has undergone many changes, and the changes are still happening. Remember, there is no final or correct way of classification. It's good to work from a kingdom framework for elementary class children. How many kingdoms should we teach? We can use 5 kingdoms. Montessori used 2 kingdoms as this was how living things were classified at that time. Classification with less than 5 kingdoms is a study of the past and not of current studies. 6 kingdoms study may not be necessary in the elementary classes. Once children understand cells and their components and have learned the basics of chemistry of life, they can move to the 3-domain system. What is the domain system? This system uses bacteria, archaea, and eukarya as the first branches of all life instead of kingdoms. It is based on cell biology and biochemistry and is meant for high school children and may be beyond the grasp of most elementary children. What is the new classification system? Branching is a new classification that incorporates the evolutionary history of each organism and shows its connection to the whole of life. Branching diagrams show relationships and connections better than rows of boxes on charts. The most formal and scientific of these branching diagrams is called cladogram, and each branch is called a clade. The new approach to classification is called the tree of life. The branching diagram that we use in elementary classrooms should be simple and easy to read. A branching diagram illustrates a hypothesis about the evolution of a lineage of life. The branches show which groups share a recent common ancestor and are related. The present living species are placed at the end of the branches. How to read the diagram? We need to make sure the children know how to read the diagram. The bottom point is where life started. Life at the branch tips is still changing, and the branch shows the history of life. The branches on the diagram are simplified and can be further expanded and studied. Children must be introduced to the scientific names. Examples: use cnidaria or cnidarians in the place of coelenterate. Look at Kingdom Monera or Prokaryotes. This is a challenging group to study because there is limited observational and hands-on experience. We need a chart that shows the illustration of the organisms. Have picture cards with text on the back of the picture. This can be read and matched to the picture on the chart. We will offer the kingdom Prokaryotes with a story. The story of Prokaryotes. The first life on Earth began after there was water in the oceans. We are not sure how life started, but there are some guesses. They have been like the bacteria of today, very tiny and with some structures inside them. They may have been visible as a scum or as a cloud in the water. Here is a more advanced story. The Earth was very young when the first life began. Water had just started to form, but the atmosphere was different to today's. There was more of carbon dioxide, methane, and ammonia than there was oxygen. There were very small carbon-containing molecules in the oceans. Somehow, these molecules came together and became alive. We will never know for sure how this happened, but we can make good guesses using the observations of fossil records and what we know of life today. The first life was very tiny. If we looked at it, it would look like a cloud in the water. Millions of years later, we would have been able to see green scum on rocks. Still later, we would be able to see big knobs made of many layers of these tiny living organisms. These knob like creatures. These knobs still form in a few places on Earth and are called stromatolites, single celled organisms. If we look at tiny organisms with a microscope today, we see that they are single celled and they have no nuclei, that is, no staining part in the center. This type of cell organization is called prokaryotic cell. The prokaryotes were first called kingdom Monera, which means kingdom of single ones. Early life shared its strengths. There was a lot of swapping of information on how to be alive. Some important abilities came, especially the ability to capture energy in sunlight. The first living things experimented and tried new ways of getting food and growing. And if the experiments worked, that branch of life continued. Three branches of life developed. Two of these make up the prokaryotes before the nucleus came, and which was called kingdom Monera earlier. Prokaryotes. There are two main groups, that is bacteria and archaea. We know these two groups developed from the living things, but we don't know the path they took or how closely they are related. The chart of prokaryotes. The broad area at the bottom symbolizes the first life and its origin from many different molecules. These three branches rose from it. The left branch is bacteria. The right branch is archaea. The branch in the middle is not part of prokaryotes. It leads to the other life on Earth. We are not sure how this connected to the other two, so the line is dotted. Let us look at some groups of bacteria. We always hear about bacteria causing disease. But life on Earth depends on bacteria. No ecosystem would function without bacteria. The chart shows only 4 bacteria, but there are around 24 of them. The first example of bacteria is called spirochetes. These are long spiral bacteria that are very flexible and wiggly. They live in water and mud. One kind lives inside the digestive tract of mollusks and may help these digest their food. A few kinds cause diseases. The second is the gram-positive bacteria. These have a very thick cell wall, that is, an outer covering of the cell. The thick wall helps them live on our skin and in the soil. We use these to make cheese and yogurt. Some of them cause diseases such as strep throat. The third is the proteobacteria. They are a large group that lives in many places, including soil, root nodules of plants, and our intestines. They are also known as purple bacteria because a few of its members are colored. Some of them cause diseases such as diarrhea. We will see that this branch of bacteria was vital for the development of the other kingdoms. Fourth comes cyanobacteria. These are a very important group. These bacteria develop the ability to make food from the sun's energy and release oxygen. They started releasing oxygen about 3.5 billion years ago and are still important contributors to the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. There is an arrow from cyanobacteria lineage to Archaea plastida, which will be done in the next lesson. The second branch of prokaryotes is the archaea. They look like bacteria. They're tiny organisms. Their internal workings are very different though. The archaea live in hot springs. No archaea are known to cause disease. There are three groups on this chart. The first group is hyperthermophils. This means lovers of extreme heat. They live in hot springs and near volcanic vents on the ocean floor. A lineage that gets its energy from minerals such as molybdenum sulfate flakes. The lineage is called Cranachiota. The second group is halophilus. This means salt lovers and they make the water look pink. They live in ponds where seawater is being dried to produce salt and in shallow bays where seawater is saltier. Most prokaryotes cannot grow in very salty places. The third group is methanogens, means methane generators. They live in swamps and cow ruminants where they release methane gas. There are some archaea that live in normal places like soil and seawater as well. The third branch, Eukarya, is not part of prokaryotes. They have some characteristics of bacteria and some of archaea, but is different from either of them. Not sure when it began. It is a third branch of life that produced larger organisms that we see around us. This lineage is called Eukarya because it leads to the eukaryotic cells and their kingdoms, that is, the protists, animals, fungi, and plant kingdoms. The eukaryotes have some things in common with both archaea and with bacteria. They have traits that are their own. Maybe they arose out of the sharing and swapping of information that happened with the first life. Now we need to make this chart. So this is a sample of the chart and you can see the tree with the two branches and the middle one which is dotted as mentioned earlier. Now the instructions of making the chart. Branching diagram for prokaryotes. Materials needed are poster board about 76 centimeters by 29 centimeters. Labels and pictures. Main label size is 4.4 centimeters by 12.5 centimeters. The prokaryotes, kingdom Monera, the label first life is in white. The branching diagram is in black. Are the labels for bacteria. Bacteria is to be placed on the branching diagram on the left side and the size is 2.2 centimeters by 7 centimeters. The four labels are placed at the bottom of the colored rectangles that are of the size 6 by 7.6 centimeters. The name on the labels are spirochetes, which is the lower right bacteria branch. Next one is gram-positive bacteria, which is kept on the lower left bacteria branch. Cyanobacteria is kept at the end of the bacteria branch, and proteobacteria is kept at the top of the bacteria branch. This is how it is displayed on the chart. Now the labels for archaea. Labels archaea is to be placed on the branching diagram on the right side, and the size is 2.2 centimeters by 7 centimeters. The three labels are placed at the bottom of the colored rectangles that are of the size 6.3 by 6.3 centimeters. Name on the labels are hyperthermophils, which is kept on the top left on archaea branch, methanogens, which is kept on the top right of the archaea branch, halophils, which is kept on the lower rectangle on the archaea branch, and first life is placed at the center, the bottom of the branching diagram. The picture cards should be placed on the colored rectangle just above the label. The descriptions of the animal are behind the pictures. Use your own pictures or the pictures provided in the video. The dotted line leads to the eukaryotic cells on the protist chart. This introduction to the domain of life and looking at prokaryotes, we will move on to the kingdom protists. We can move to the tree of life after this only. We will look at protists in the next video. This brings us to the end of the coming of prokaryotes, the branching diagrams. Thank you for watching. This is Geeta Vijayachandran signing off.
Montessori Grandma.